Hi guys, thanks everyone for joining. Everyone. um, in case you haven't joined one of these workshops before or haven't watched one on YouTube, my name's Lottie and I do these workshops on behalf of Empower Our Education, who are a brilliant tutoring company that work with primarily lower income families to kind of provide them with the extra support that everybody deserves, but not everybody can afford super ridiculously high prices for. And I think that's something that's so important, especially in such tricky times where even though everyone's back at school, things are still very uncertain. People have lost a lot of their education time. So I think it's really brilliant that I have the opportunity to do this, and I'm so grateful that I do, because I'd have loved to have something like this when I was doing my GCSEs. So I'm happy that I can be the one doing it for other people now. Yeah, today's workshop is about creative writing, which is clearly so very, very popular. So I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. If either of you two have any questions throughout the whole thing, just pop them in the chat box and I'll go through and answer them at the end. Also, please don't feel obliged to stay, seeing as no one else has, which is fine. But yeah, that's not a problem. Now the slideshow's not going to start. That'd be embarrassing. Okay, yeah. So on here, I've got the creative writing, and go and follow the social media. Instagram is Empower Our One and Facebook is Empower Our Education. They post updates, they post they post competitions on occasion. There's just tons of brilliant information that is very helpful if you're looking to be tutored in any kind of thing, really. So what I wanted to start off with is where creative writing is in the exam. It's found in the first paper of English language in the section B. So I don't know if you guys were here for the English language paper that we looked at, where I think it was a text about Rosabelle, a girl called Rosabelle who was like on a bus or something like that. That was a couple of weeks ago now, so obviously you might not remember it at all. But this would be in the section B of that paper pretty much. And the question is often related to the comprehension that we did before the writing, which is true. In the paper that I showed you last week, it was about a girl on a bus, and then the creative writing was inspired by a picture of a girl on a bus, and you had to like describe a journey where you were going to and things like that. So it is often related to that. And you are given a choice of 2 questions. Please only complete one of them. One of them tends to be more descriptive, and one tends to be more of like a plot-driven story. So one would be like, describe what this kind of, if there's a picture of like a guy getting chased by a boulder or something, it'd be like, describe how you think XYZ is happening in this picture. And then the other one might not have a picture, and it'd be like, write about a time you and a friend did something really bad that you regret, or something like that. So it's, one of them is very much more descriptive and one of them is much more to do with plot. And the whole creative writing is worth 40 marks, so it is pretty much half of your paper. It's a very important chunk, which is why it's important to look at it. 24 marks are for content and organisation, which is your AO5, and 16 marks for technical accuracy, which is AO6. So in your English language paper 1, you have AO1 all the way up to AO6. It's completely chock-a-block with assessment objectives. But then I put in a few nice pictures there. So yeah, I thought we could have a bigger look at the AOs, because content and analysis, whatever, doesn't really explain very much. Content and organisation, sorry. So AO5, content and organisation. Oh, I need to pop this up here. This is one that's worth up to 24 marks out of 40. And the things it says in the mark scheme is you need to communicate clearly, effectively, and imaginatively. Clearly is quite obvious. It just means you're not babbling, you're not going on about some random thing, and you're not making it confusing for the reader. Imaginatively, that's one of the things that it's much harder to kind of support someone with creative writing, because you can't teach an imagination, really. You just have to kind of think about something and then make that more exciting. Like if you're worried about it being boring, just keep on going and going and going until it's super exciting. And effectively comes under, there's always at the top of the paper, there's a box that is like, oh, your school is doing a creative writing competition, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of gives you a reason as to why you're writing that text. So if it's like you're writing something that's going to be featured in a young adults magazine, write something that is directed towards young adults, because that's what's going to get you the most marks. That's what's effective about it. Which is the same as kind of selecting and adapting the tone, style, and register. So the tone, is it formal? Is it informal? Is it kind of chattier? Is it more this is what happened and this is what happened? That's kind of what it means based on this. And consider the purpose of your writing of your writing, I think, and the audience, which is literally just what we're talking about. And using structural and grammatical features to ensure coherence in your writing. So obviously ensuring coherence just means it makes sense, and using your structure and your grammar to kind of add to that or help you with that. So don't structure it in a way that's super confusing for the reader, because otherwise that's not going to make any sense. AO6 was the technical accuracy aspect of it, which is worth the 16 marks out of 40 into this section. And this includes an effective use of vocabulary and varying sentence structures that make it more interesting. Vocabulary is one of the biggest things about creative writing. They don't want you to go, it was really big and really exciting. They want you to use brilliant words that a lot of people won't have even heard of, like use absolutely brilliant words that show off your range of vocabulary, because that's what's going to be getting you high marks in your creative writing. And it is genuinely so easy to get those marks. It just takes the effort of reading a book every month or whatever, every so often reading an article that has words in it you don't already know, learning new words, kind of, if you don't know what a word means, search it up, like just the small things that you won't even think you've remembered the words, but you do. When I was doing my creative writing for GCSE, I had a big board that I stuck next to my bed with all this really exciting vocab on. And I made it because, you know, I don't know about you guys, I get in the headspace where I'm like, I'm going to revise, I'm going to be so good. And I made this big board. And then in my head, I never looked at that again. In my head, that was completely pointless until I got into my exam. And I realised that literally just by having it next to my bed, I've woken up every day, and without even thinking about it, I've looked at these words, and slowly I've started thinking about them and adapting them into my everyday vocabulary. And it took zero effort. Write them on post-it notes, put them everywhere. That's the way you're going to learn this vocab. And it's so easy. Another thing that it says in the mark scheme for AO6 is consider the purpose and effect your structural and language choices will have on the reader. As we said before, just remember why you're writing it. If it's for like young kids, obviously don't be using ridiculously specific words. Jargon is the term for it. Words that only kind of apply to a certain topic, and that other people that don't do that topic or don't have any interest in that topic won't know anything about. Stuff like cars, there's a lot of car jargon, like I can't even think of it because obviously I don't know it, I'm not that into cars. But stuff like that, like don't use very specific vocab if it's for like a year 8 or something like that. And accurate spelling and punctuation is absolutely necessary. If you don't know what all your commas and semicolons and colons do, just learn them. Like, it's one of those things where there's no trick to it. You just have to learn it. And again, that's something that does not take any effort. Well, it does, but subconsciously. Like, you don't think it's effort, and then it just happens. And finally, as we were saying, ambitious and accurate use of vocabulary. Stick up post-it notes all around your house, annoy your mum with them, just put them up. So, oh, can't see it now. Based on what we were saying, I wanted to actually have a look at some impressive vocab. And I got this from a list that it was from AQA examiners, but obviously that applies to any exam board out there because words are words. They don't mean different things for different exam boards. And these were some of the words that they picked out of students writing and out of their own kind of mark scheme, that they were like, if you can include some of these words, obviously there's tons more, but these are some of my favourite ones that I chose to put in here. If you can include some of these, then you're going to be aiming for those top bands and those top marks because they're fantastic words that not everybody uses. So the first one is abhor, however you want to say it, which is to find something disgusting. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just say, I abhorred that. That is abhorrent. It comes from that. Anything like that. Arcane. I also didn't know quite a few of these words myself, so it's really not exciting, but like interesting for me to go through and learn something. And arcane is like needing some kind of secret knowledge, like if a friend has a secret and you really want to know what it is, or if they have information that you need, it's that kind of thing. Oh, you can't see it again. Brusque or brusque, I'm not sure. Being blunt or like quite abrupt, a bit rude kind of in how you speak. Clandestine is to work with some kind of hidden agenda. So you have some kind of different meaning to doing what you're doing. So like you might be acting really nice to somebody, but because you want something from them. Like, it's quite manipulative. Extol, to praise or honour something or someone, to hold something in like high esteem pretty much. Furtive is being very secretive and shy. So you could say that a certain character in your writing is furtive and another character needs some secret knowledge. That would make quite a good little story there. indolent or indolent, not inclined to work or exert themselves, maybe a little bit lazy, something like that. They don't particularly want to go out of their way to do anything. I don't know how to pronounce half of these words either, so like nadir, I guess, the lowest point of anything. I keep on spelling of as or in this PowerPoint. I'm really sorry about that. Obsequious? Oh, this is so embarrassing. Don't come for me. Is trying to gain something through flattery. So a bit like clandestine, like if you're being really nice to somebody because you want to know something. Penchant or penchant, a strong liking or preference. So someone could have a penchant for chocolate. I do. Very happy it's been Easter. I've got a lot of chocolate eggs now. It's absolutely brilliant. Sycophant, one of my favourite words, just because it's so nice to say, is somebody who tries to please somebody for personal gain. So again, it's kind of, all of these actually make me sound really manipulative. I've just chosen words that add into that kind of theme by accident. But again, that kind of links into bit clandestine. Is that kind of being nice, but because you want something. Vociferous, one of my favourite words as well, is offensively loud and conspicuous. Some of my friends are very vociferous when we go out shopping, when we could all go out shopping, just way too loud and too out there. And then zenith is the highest point of something. And I just wanted to throw that in because nadir and zenith, opposites, and also very nice words. They kind of sound a bit magical in a way, which I quite like. But yeah, I hope that's some vocab that you think, yeah, that's quite helpful. And obviously, I have a massive word bank. I copied all of the words I could find that weren't pointless because there were words on there like just words that everyone uses in everyday life. And I'm like, why would you want that in a really impressive vocab list? But if you do want the good one that I found, please feel free to email me for it, the two of you here, or anything like that, and I'll be happy to send it over. Some example questions we could do. I'm obviously not going to go through and like give you an answer because how an individual answers a creative writing task is completely different to how someone might answer one about like an inspector calls, because obviously with an inspector calls, no matter how broad the question is, there's a very limited amount of what you can say. Like how does the inspector come across as like social views or whatever, even though there's a lot you can say, everyone's going to kind of be saying the same things. But with creative writing, you can literally say anything. So I don't want to sit here and go, this is an example answer, this is what you have to write if you get this in a test, because that's not it. But like I was saying, this is the one that was on the bottom of the paper that we went through a couple of weeks ago. Your local newspaper is running a creative writing competition, and they intend to publish the winning entries rather. Either describe a journey by a bus as suggested by this picture, or write a story about two people from very different backgrounds. So as you can see, like I said, one's much more about description and one's much more plot based and kind of story driven. And I wanted to highlight this as just kind of a, like I was saying, always look at it because that's the content and that's context, and that's going to provide you with knowledge about why you're doing that writing. I saw one that was you're writing a story that's going to be published in a book to like your year group or something, and that's a brilliant one because that means that it would be someone your own age, someone that's in your year, your school, reading it. So you just write whatever you'd want to read. That was a really good one. This one's quite good as well. They're never going to be super specific. It's never going to be like your dad's boss who's going to give him a promotion is like going to read the story. It's not going to be anything like that. But yeah, and that's just like I was saying, that's more focus on description, questions more focus on structure. So play to your strengths. If you know tons of brilliant adjectives and you've spent so much time learning some really lovely vocab, I'd suggest going for the description one just because that's where you can really show off your skill. But if you're much more, not more imaginative, but if you're more like stories just come to your head naturally, then do the second one because that's your chance to show off. It's just whatever you feel stronger at. And then I made a little checklist just as things that you just need to include and that's going to get you the high marks. So like we were going on about before, ambitious vocab, that's pretty self-explanatory. Variety of sentence structures, so complex, compound, and simple. Simple is, I had to go over this myself because I was trying to tutor it to someone a while ago, and you don't really study them past primary school, and I was just like, oh my god, what is a compound sentence? But yeah, a simple sentence is one that only has a main clause in, so it just kind of stands by itself, like Ben went to the shop, John climbed a tree, anything like that, just a very simple one-line thing. It has a subject, it might have a verb in it, that's it. Complex kind of has more, it has a main clause and a subordinate clause, or several subordinate, actually, can you have several subordinate clauses, or is that called something else? But it just has more than the main clause, really. And then a compound one has 2 or more subjects and 2 or more verbs. So it could be like Rosie went to the cinema and Tom went to the shops or something, even though that sounds like a really simple sentence. That's kind of, it's got 2 subjects, it's got 2 verbs, it's that kind of thing. Interesting and correct use of punctuation. Like I was saying, semicolons, hyphens, colons, speech marks for dialogue, just anything that isn't just full stops and commas, because that's going to be super boring for the examiner. And also make sure you're getting it right. Like if there needs to be a comma, make sure you know where commas go in a sentence. Make sure you know where semicolons go, because if it's not going to be correct, there's no point putting it in. And finally, accurate spellings. I know that's something that some people really struggle with creative writing. Is like that's what's going to bring them down, especially if you've got something like dyslexia, or like you just can't learn spellings with ease. But even though it is an important part of the writing, you're not going to spell one word wrong and then they're going to knock off half the marks. It might be if you get quite a few spellings wrong throughout the whole thing, they might dock like 3 or 4 if you've consistently been spelling stuff wrong. But if it's like you spell necessary with 1 S, they're not going to be like, right, give them 10 out of 40. Like, it's not that deep. It's just, just try your best with that, pretty much, because I know there's a lot of circumstances where it is super difficult for people to learn spellings, so it's not fair to expect them to be able to spell every single word correctly. But yeah, I hope that was kind of helpful. That's all I've really got for that, because like I said, it's very difficult to kind of support people with creative writing because there's only so much imagination you can teach. But yeah, if either of you two have any questions that you want to just pop in the chat box quickly, then I'll give it a second. But if not, then that's kind of it. I hope everyone had a really nice Easter. I think I said earlier, I definitely did. Feeling, oh, I've actually got it here. I got a Whisper egg and I got a Reese's egg, and I absolutely love Reese's, favourite chocolate ever. So feeling pretty good about that. Yeah, no questions have been put into the chat box, so I'll assume that, oh no, am I sending vocab list? Yes, no problem. I'll send that to you straight away. Yes, fab. Okay, brilliant. Well, I hope you two have a really lovely day, and anyone that watches. But yeah, I'll see you all later.